If you love me, please don't judge me. Got my hands tied, the power's above me. Don't shoot the messenger, I'm just a puppet here. If you wanna place blame, then look to the puppeteer. Family, fortune, envy, jealousy, privilege, passed on, legacy, secret, sabotage, borderline, felony, suicide, subtract, selfish, pedigree, yeah.
Well, Richmond happened, man. This race was pretty boring. I actually didn't wake up until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I actually slept in. Like, I didn't start watching the race until like almost midway through stage 1. Like, I legit slept in. But yeah. But honestly, this race, it was pretty mediocre. I mean, it was your average run-of-the-mill Richmond race. Like, it's like Richmond was under the lights, was always under the lights to begin with. Remember how we all said we wanted Richmond today because we said day Richmond was better than night Richmond? Yeah, that looked like that didn't age well. But anyway, before we talk about what else happened this weekend, let's talk about the other races that happened. So we had the modified race happen this weekend. And yeah, this modified race also saw the return of the Rocket Man, Ryan Newman. Yes, Newman is back in a NASCAR sanctioned series as Newman's getting warmed up for his SRX debut later this summer. And Ryan Newman ran a really good race in the modifieds. I mean, Newman always runs good in modifieds. He's a modified god. But in the end, Newman had some issues late in the race, and Newman would end up finishing 13th a lap down. And it was a damn shame because Newman was working on a top 5 run, but damn, still, Newman had a really good run, just the results don't show for it. And in the end, reigning champ Justin Bonsignor, he comes through and dominates the race and wins at Richmond. So yeah, after Justin Bonsignor had a DNF at New Simra a couple months ago in the season opener, Bonsignor finally gets his season back on track. Now the question is, can Justin Bonsignor add another championship to his total? We'll see this year as he looks to defend the title. But yeah, that's the modified race. Now to the Xfinity race. Like, this Xfinity race, well, it was an average Xfinity race. Like, this race, for the most part, was dominated by Ty Gibbs. Like, it was dominated by the JGR cars. Like, usually, Richmond has become JGR's playground in Cup and Xfinity. Like, usually, the Cup and Xfinity teams dominate this race in JGR. But yeah, and of course, this race is also the opening race for the Dash for Cash. And of course, on the Dash for Cash, the good news is Ty Gibbs was not part of it this week. Bad news, he's part of it next week. Because of how the race ended up. Because for the Dash for Cash, it was mainly between Allmendinger and Sam Mayer since it was the top 4 series regulars from COTA last week. The top 4 finishing series regulars from COTA. To compete for it at Richmond. And yeah, Austin Hill ran mediocre, and Gregson had a bunch of brake issues. And Gregson finished deep. In the end, though, the race was mainly between Ty Gibbs and John Hunter Nemechek, as Nemechek was in the Leach 18 car. And then John Hunter Nemechek, he would end up making an aggressive pass on Ty Gibbs. Everyone will just debate and say it was a clean pass. But from the looks of the angles, it looked like he doored Ty Gibbs getting by him with 4 to go. Then again, Fox really didn't show a good angle of it. So once again, it's just NASCAR and Fox having shitty coverage again. Oh, look, Fox having shitty coverage in NASCAR. Where have we seen this porn before? And then we get to the last lap, when in the final turn, Ty Gibbs would give John Hunter Nemechek the bumper and then door him back. So Ty Gibbs would do the bump and run, and Ty Gibbs in the last turn would get by John Hunter Nemechek, and Ty Gibbs gets his 3rd win of the season. And of course, everyone was complaining about how Ty Gibbs won this race. Because everyone calling Ty Gibbs dirty for doing the bump and run. Here's my question. Did Ty Gibbs wreck John Hunter Nemechek? Did Nemechek still finish 2nd? If no and yes were your 2 answers to those 2 questions, then what the fuck are you getting mad about? Yeah, it's kind of funny and ironic how everyone's going to bash Ty Gibbs for that, And yet when Ross Chastain dumped AJ Allmendinger last week at COTA, nobody batted an eye. They all said that was hard racing. So yeah, how come it was okay for Chastain to dump Allmendinger, but when Ty Gibbs does the bump and run on his teammate, it's all of a sudden a problem? And hell, this isn't the first time we've seen the bump and run done between JGR teammates at Richmond. Remember Richmond 2016, Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards? And yet when Carl Edwards did that to Kyle Busch, it was okay. A teammate, might I add. But when Ty Gibbs does it to Nemechek, it's not okay. Hell, for fuck's sakes, what Chastain did to Allmendinger last week was more dirty than what Ty Gibbs did to John Hunter Nemechek. And everyone's going to say, and I know everyone in the comments is going to say, oh, but Allmendinger did a bump and run on Chastain a couple turns prior at COTA, so it was okay for Chastain to wreck him. So, if that's okay, then how come when Nemechek doored Ty Gibbs, and then Ty Gibbs did the bump and run back to him, it's not okay? Let me just point one thing out here. The bump and run in hard racing, it's only okay as long as the fan base approves of the driver that did it. But yeah, honestly, Ty Gibbs, he was going to win that race regardless. He had a dominant car all day. He earned the win fair and square. And like I've said before, I don't care who does the bump and run. I have no problem with it as long as you don't wreck the son of a bitch. And hell, I think 95% of the people that had a problem with Ty Gibbs doing it were probably the same crowd that had a problem with Logano doing it to Truex at Martinsville in 2018. And oh yeah, I took Logano's side in that situation. Just like I'm taking Ty Gibbs' side. And it's also funny how all of a sudden everyone wants to defend and take John Hunter Nemechek's side in this situation. And yet 2 weeks ago in the truck race at Atlanta, everyone was shitting on John Hunter Nemechek for manipulating the outcome of that truck race. When he was a lap down and then he pushed his teammate Corey Heim to the win and screwed his other teammate Chandler Smith out of the win. Funny what happens in 2 weeks. Like, the one lesson I could take out of this weekend so far is NASCAR fans need to learn how to pick a fucking lane and to stay in it. And if anyone's saying he, no, I'm not being a Joe Gibbs apologist or any of that stupid fucking bullshit. If anything, if anybody knows me from anything, I am the furthest goddamn thing away from a Gibbs fan. I just give credit where it's rightfully due. And I am just being fair and perfectly balanced. As all things should be, like Thanos in Infinity War. But yeah, that's enough talk there. And of course, if anyone's wondering, no, there is no goddamn Days of Our Mercedes episode this week, since it was an off week for F1. But yeah, F1's back next week, so maybe another Days of Our Mercedes next week. But yeah, anyway, to the Cup race. Well, the start of this race was dominated by Ryan Blaney, like the first 100-something laps. So yeah, Blaney winning over 100 laps in the race. We all know how this is going to end. Because later on in the stage, the one thing we saw was pit strategy. Yes, pit strategy in stage racing. Something that's very rare and almost never happens. Because at Richmond, you had cars going on a two-stop strategy for fresher tires while everyone else went on a one-stop for track position. And Blaney was part of the two-stop strategy. But in the end, he pitted way too late, as during the first or second cycle of the two-stop strategy, Martin Truex Jr. would come in a couple laps earlier and would get past Blaney on the undercut. And then Truex had the race in the bag. Until we got to stage 3. And oh yeah, Blaney, so yeah, with that, Blaney now losing there. That means Ryan Blaney is now 0-10 in races that he's led over 100 laps in. Blaney is not clutch. Blaney cannot get it done when he has a dominant car. Like, I understand if it happens every once in a while, but when it happens every single goddamn time, that's usually the signs of a bad driver. Blaney is not a good driver when he's losing that many races. If Blaney is losing that many races after winning over 100 laps, that Blaney may not be as good as everyone's hyping him up to be. Blaney's got to learn to be more clutch. And then we also get to the piston match at the end of Stage 2 and start of Stage 3 between Blaney and Chastain. When Blaney would door slam Chastain, and then Chastain would then give the bumper to Blaney and give the bump and run. And then at the start of Stage 3, Blaney would give Chastain the bumper back. You know what's pretty ironic? When Blaney and Chastain gave each other the bumper, nobody batted an eye or said a word. But when Todd Gibbs did it to John Hunter Nemechek in the Xfinity race yesterday, you know what? I'm just going to stop right there. I'm just going to stop while I'm ahead. And I'll just let the NASCAR fans fucking figure it out. About what's okay with hard racing and what's not okay with hard racing. You know, when the NASCAR fans can pick a fucking lane and to stay in it when it comes to hard racing, they can come back to me. Alright? That fair deal? That fair deal? Yes? Okay, fair enough. Anyway, continuing on, we then get another caution for Cody Ware hitting the wall. And we also get one from Cindric. And then during that cycle, William Byron would then stay out on 11 laps older tires than Truex. But Byron was able to keep Truex at bay. And then Byron was able to keep position over Truex by pitting first on the pit strategy. Since Truex stayed out like 10-15 laps later. So yeah, Byron then gets the lead, and then around 50 to go, we will get the turning point in the race, when initially Kyle Busch would get a penalty for having a piece of tape on his grill, which NASCAR deemed a no-no, and Kyle Busch's crew argued, saying that that piece of tape was supposed to go on the brake duct, and that they expected that tape to fly off. So that's kind of a bad call by Ben Bayshore to do that. But yeah, NASCAR's like, no, that's a penalty. So yeah, Kyle Busch had to come down and serve a penalty to have that tape wiped off, and they took a pit stop with 4 tires. But then while Kyle Busch was taking the penalty, a number of cars came down pit lane, including Hamlin and Harvick and many others. Because I think everyone went under the assumption that Kyle Busch was pitting to start the 2-stop strategy. And I don't think anybody knew that Kyle Busch had a penalty, and they thought it was a scheduled pit stop. So yeah, Kyle Busch alone, that penalty for Kyle Busch was the turning point in this race. Because odds are, if Kyle Busch never had that penalty, that pit cycle would have probably never happened. And the crazy thing was, Kyle Busch's crew said they put that piece of tape on 200 laps prior to being black flagged. And it took NASCAR that long to figure it out. Honestly, that's not a good sign for NASCAR officiating. When it takes them that goddamn long to find a piece of tape that's in a no-no place on the grill. That's not a good sign. That's not a good look for NASCAR officiating. When it takes you that goddamn long. But yeah. Anyway, we don't get to the end of the race. At the end of the race, it was between Byron and Martin Truex Jr., and then Kyle Larson, who was running the both of them down. But Larson just didn't have enough time to get there. And then, remember when Hamlin and Harvick pitted for fresh tires because of Kyle Busch's penalty? Guess what? They were not only able to run down Byron in the closing laps, they passed Byron with 4 to go, and Denny Hamlin would then hold off Harvick in the closing laps. And Denny Hamlin, who pitted for 4 fresh tires, after having a shitty start to the season, Hamlin comes through in the clutch and gets his first win of the season at his home track in Richmond. So Hamlin gets his first win, and this is also his first top 10 finish alone this season, after having no top 10 finishes the first 6 races and having everything go wrong for him. So yeah, Hamlin gets his first win of the season. At Byron, he ends up coming home 3rd, which, hey, 3rd isn't a bad finish for him, a solid points day. And oh yeah, Truex comes home 4th, and Larson comes home 5th. And oh yeah, Kyle Busch, after his penalty, he ended up finishing 9th. So yeah, some solid points runs. But yeah, Kyle Busch, the fact that everybody came down the pit while he got a penalty, that saved Kyle Busch's race from having a terrible finish. But yeah, and before anyone complains about Denny Hamlin winning the race. Let me just say this. If it was Byron or anybody else that won the race on that strategy, nobody would have said a goddamn thing. But yeah, and let's be real, Hamlin didn't back into this win or steal the win. Hamlin had a fast car all day. He just happened to make the right strategy call because of the right circumstances playing out. They made a pit strategy call. They outsmarted everybody else on strategy. Don't get mad because Hamlin's team outsmarted your team on pit strategy. If anything, this loss for Byron is 100% on Rudy Fugle. He should have pitted Byron when Hamlin was on pit lane. Because if they pitted Byron, this would have been Byron's day today. But instead, it's Hamlin's day. So yeah, the 2014 team, they gambled on strategy and it failed. The 2014 team played themselves. Let me just put this graphic on the screen here with 36 to go. 36 to go, Byron was 1 lap ahead of Hamlin. And not only in those last 30-something laps did Hamlin not only get the lap back under green, he was able to run Byron back down and win the race. The 2014 played themselves. If you're going to get mad at anybody, blame the 24 team for not pitting when he should have. They gambled and it backfired. That strategy call alone, that is the reason why Byron only wins 1 race a year. That is why. Because they also did the same similar strategy call at Pocono last year. And they ran out of gas. So yeah, Rudy Fugle's got to get better with strategy because that's now 2 races the last 2 years that he's blown off pit strategy. And yeah, with Denny Hamlin winning, Denny Hamlin now officially becomes the first JGR driver to lock himself into the chase. To be perfectly honest, I thought the first JGR driver to lock himself in would have been Kyle Busch. But yeah, Hamlin was my next choice after Kyle Busch. We'll just say I chose poorly. But yeah, I don't think it's really surprising JGR car won at Richmond, considering JGR owns Richmond. Because the JGR cars always run well at Richmond. Especially when they finish 1, 2, 3 at Richmond in 2 of the last 6 Richmond races. But yeah, overall, this race was pretty boring. Even if Byron won, this race was still pretty boring. But hey, congrats to the 11 team and congrats to Hamlin. I'm not going to be salty like everyone else. Let me be real. The only people that are salty about Hamlin winning are sore losers that don't understand pit strategy. And are mad because Hamlin outsmarted their team on strategy. They should have pitted for 4. Byron should have pitted for 4. Truex should have pitted. Larson should have pitted. If any of them pitted, this would have been them in victory lane today. But instead, Hamlin outsmarted all of them. So yeah, Hamlin didn't fucking luck into anything. Hamlin earned it fair and square. And Hamlin also gets somewhat redemption from last year's Richmond race when Hamlin had it in the bag, only for a late race caution to come out and affect everything, which led to Bowman coming out of nowhere to winning that race. So yeah, Hamlin gets somewhat redemption for that. But yeah, Hamlin finally gets a win to get his season back on track. Because so far, you look at Hamlin's start of the year this year, it's very similar to Matt Kenseth's start of 2016 when Kenseth could get nothing right. But then once Kenseth got that win at Dover, everything got right back on track. Hamlin, everything has gone wrong for him so far in the first 6 races. Hamlin wins Richmond. Could the season get back on track? We'll have to see. And also next week is Martinsville, which is one of Hamlin's better tracks. And arguably, Hamlin should have won both races at Martinsville last year. But then shit hit the fan and Hamlin went full Hamlin. But yeah, Hamlin did not choke today, which is a rare sign. But yeah, anyway, congrats to Hamlin. But yeah, Richmond honestly shouldn't have 2 dates. Richmond should only have 1 date. I honestly say for Richmond's other date, either make it a dirt race, or just give their date to either Rockingham or North Wilkesboro. Or even give it to Iowa at this point. Like, honestly, Richmond's been a pretty boring track. Like, honestly, the better short tracks are Bristol and Martinsville. Richmond's usually been the worst of the 3 short tracks. But yeah, anyway, that's going to wrap it up here. That's all I got to say. On to Martinsville next week. See y'all later. Peace.